Good day, and welcome to another edition of Phoenix 76 Tech Talk. I am here with my good friend Lene, and we are going to be talking about networking today. So, Lene, if you wouldn't mind, could you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So just a little bit about my background. I started off as a federal government employee where I did programming. Then I moved on to Big Four, where I was there for a number of years doing, I went from a consultant to more of a day-to-day kind of technical role up until management. So, more of the business development. Then I moved over to an opportunity within tech. So I do more of a quasi-technical role where I do data governance, but I also interact very heavily with my engineers. So I still code. That's a little bit about me.
Very cool, very cool. So, networking is often touted as an essential for professional success. So, how do you define effective networking, and what strategies do you employ to maximize its impact?
Sure. So I think for effective networking, there's a lot of things you could use for that recipe. But I think one of the major things is understanding your company's culture when it comes to networking. When I was in consulting, it was highly encouraged and it didn't matter what role you were in and what role they were in. It was, pretty much for the most part, an open door policy. But in my current company, it's not as highly encouraged, and there's more of a protocol about you really, it's not highly encouraged to go to an SVP or EVP and ask for time on the calendar. However, you can ask for someone they would recommend that you can talk to. So you can still get networking in or done. It's just about how do you go about approaching it. And then also being very upfront with what you want to get out of the relationship, and letting your intentions be known. So if you want to learn how to grow your career into reaching the level that they are in, just letting them know up front that you want to learn more about their progression, their career trajectory, and how they were successful in moving up.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good advice. And I really, it's really interesting to understand, about the impact that the company culture has on how you perform that. So thank you for that. So here's a question that's near and dear to my heart. So what advice do you have introverted professionals who may find networking events daunting or draining? And I'm going to raise my hand because I am an introvert and I find this challenging.
Sure. So I'll say that introverts can, I know people sometimes say, oh, they're just an introvert, you'll be passive. Not true at all. I work with a number of PPMDs, which are partners, managing directors at my firm, my former firm, and others that were self-identified introverts, and they were highly successful. But they were able to cultivate and come up with really good skills to network. So for me, I can be a bit introverted. For me, what I do is I identify opportunities or I do practicing. I think about what that speaker, that person has of value that I really want to get out of that. And just comes from that perspective. Valerie Plame, I was watching her interview years ago, and she said that the way she was able to um, protect her role, she was a CIA agent and she was outed. She said one of the ways she was able to navigate that world was that people like to talk about themselves. So she said when, because they say, how do you not figure it out? Well, she would ask them about themselves, and people like talking about themselves. And I do find that very, very an effective way to get start an inroad, to start my networking. You want to be authentic again, but if it's something that I see that someone has done that I'm genuinely interested in, I'll start a conversation around that. Or there's been times when I go in and I try that doesn't work, but I see there's something else that is a passion of theirs, and then I'll build upon that. So for me, it's not as much work being an introvert, or maybe they're even an introvert because you can find a common ground to connect with. So I think that's really what you want to start off with. And then realizing too, the people are people. You might make mistakes. You might get the cold shoulder, but thinking about what it is that you want to get out of it. Maybe they're not the right person for you, but they can recommend you to someone else, or there might be someone else that might be a better fit for your relationship when it comes to networking. People, just because that someone has something you might want, that doesn't mean you'll be a necessary a fit with them, but someone else has that skill as well, that knowledge as well.
Very cool. Thank you. There's a couple tips there that I'm going to be using. So, in today's digital age, what role does online networking platforms and social media play in professional networking? And how can professionals utilize those effectively?
So I think that in order for to get the word out, I guess you'll say, or to your brand out, or if you want to connect with someone, it's imperative to use social networking. It's probably one of the quickest, most effective, and easiest ways to get your information out there or get information in. So really identifying what it is that you want to get out. Like if it's a social networking influencer, well, LinkedIn might be a good resource, but TikTok might be better. So thinking about what it is that the person you want to connect with, and identifying the best platform there. If you see they're very active on LinkedIn or Facebook, then you might want to professionally stalk them. I say you don't want to freak anyone out, but
Mhm.
you do want to see that they appreciate their work. There was someone who I messaged, they told me to message them. They never responded. I just think they were quite busy. But I saw they had different posts. So I started to compliment their posts and I got their attention that way. So it's just kind of thinking about, how they use the platform, right? Um, and then okay, how to use them effectively. Again, identifying how they use it and then meeting them where they are. So if you see that they are resistant to TikTok,
Mhm.
don't start sending them TikTok links to like, hey, I saw this, you might like it. Well, they say that I know people who don't like TikTok, but I
Mhm.
do know people that maybe they use the Wall Street Journal. So maybe there's an article that they might like that's on the Wall Street Journal. So I kind of like just tailor my content that I might send over or I want information from where I know that they might connect with most.
Okay. No, this is interesting because like kind of going back to one of your earlier points is um, one kind of understanding more about the individuals that you're trying to interact with by doing your research, potentially finding those pieces of common ground that might help you to one have that connection, and then help to foster what might be an uncomfortable interaction, make it a little bit easier by having that common ground. So I like that. That's cool. I hadn't thought about necessarily using like all those different social media channels to try and understand like more about the folks we're trying to interact with. It's cool. Another question for you. So, uh, how do you approach initiating and nurturing those relationships once you really make that contact?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There are different ways.
Mhm.
There's some people who I work with and I have to go through their EA and just say, hey, I want to set up time with them. But then there's other people say, hey, you can ping me directly. So someone told me, and I use this as well. If you don't know a starting point, maybe there's a holiday or there's something that that person might enjoy. For example, around the holidays or the New Year. New Year's a great time. I hope that you have a very successful New Year. I would like to connect with you for coffee, doing those type of things to really try to get that natural starting point in. And then from there, really listening. I think they said it's a very listening, maximizing your listening skills to what that person is saying, because you can kind of build upon what they said, or even if you come back for another conversation, you could say, well, hey, then you hear a dog barking in the background. Oh, how did you go out for a walk with your dog this weekend?
Mm,
Up or something like that. Because people usually love to talk about their family, their pets, or things like that. So it's something that you can kind of like think about, to connect with, that will help you to start to transition into a more natural, comfortable conversation.
hmm. So I want to double click on that. So, like, what role does authenticity kind of play as far as building those relationships?
Yeah, I think that authenticity, people like to connect with people who they feel are real or that are genuine. If you feel like someone's only there to collect information that maybe they won't use or self-serving, a lot of times people don't want to be bothered with them. And so, in order to really be authentic, again, I think that finding out is what is that you're passionate about, and that passion shows, and that interest shows, and that person will be more than likely to really want to interact with you. So it's to me, it's again, people want to be with people they feel comfortable with. So if I feel
Mm,
like we're having a natural, genuine conversation, I'm going to be able to relate with you more. But if you're being disingenuous or you're being, it's only a one-way conversation, that's not a very effective form of communication. And you probably won't get as much value out of that conversation with that relationship as you wish to.
gotcha. Okay. So clearly, you're very experienced with networking and seems to be like one of your superpowers. Can you share a memorable experience where networking really helped and like moved your career forward?
Sure. So one of my first projects when I was in Big Four Consulting, I was talking to a senior manager, and she mentioned the area that she was from, and I said, "Oh, I was from there as well." And so we started to connect based off of that. But then we had a working relationship. But then we started to talk a bit more socially, a bit more professionally. And I credit her with bringing me along her experience of going from, well, she was a senior manager at that point, but now she's a partner. Well, she looked out for me. She helped me when it came to promotions. She helped me when it came to doing PRD, which is, what is it? Sorry, I can't think of the initiative, the acronym, but it's the
Mm.
firm initiatives. So she put me in line for firm initiatives that helped me to build up my network. They were things that I really enjoyed, but also she opened me up to a wealth of different opportunities and experiences that I probably would, well, I know I would not have had if I did not network with her. So it helped me with my career progression, but also my networking progression, and it also make me a more diverse employee and diverse person as well. So that networking, that simple answer to that question turned into what, a 9-year relationship that greatly
Wow,
benefited me, but also benefited her as well.
that is amazing. So actually talk a little bit more about this two-way relationship here. Because you said it also benefited her.
Yeah, yeah. So when it depends on someone's role. Think about what it is that they need. Well, everyone needs something in a professional environment.
Hmm.
But in this particular case, she was a partner. And so she needed the support of people under her to carry out certain initiatives or to come with ideas or to execute on building a pipeline of new work. So for the professional aspect, I like to run a lot of the firm initiatives. So, they were like more of the soft work. I like to do that because it was things about HBCUs that I was interested in. So it helped me to carry out the work, but also to strengthen her relationship that would like lead to more of a pipeline of employees or things like that. So it benefited her in the end because she was the front person. She was the one who was sponsoring it. But it helped me because I was able to enjoy what I was doing, build up a network, and really do something that I felt like I was really giving back. On a personal, we just had a rapport, a personal rapport. So if it were things that she needed me to do, that she might not even want to ask me to do, I would volunteer. And it wasn't anything super crazy, but maybe she was, I don't know, she was doing some grunt work that I would maybe not have billable hours for, but I would volunteer to do it because I really cared about our relationship. So it wasn't always about getting something in return, but it was also something
Mm.
about helping her because I saw that she needed the help as well.
I like where you're going because I was heading that direction. So how do you navigate that fine line between networking for a professional gain and building those genuine, meaningful relationships?
I think that you first need to know that um, you're not going to always get it right. Right. There were certain things I said in that relationship, like, oh, I wouldn't say that again. Or you can kind of tell, like, went too far, that TMI, pull it back. And I'm sure she probably did the same thing as well. So just kind of that hit or miss. Just kind of people will give you that unconscious, or sometimes they'll tell you, I don't like that, I don't agree, or sometimes you can kind of feel it. The other thing is to be very important was that when I met her, she's a senior manager, but she went to become a partner. Well, people change, and they should change.
Mm.
So her role, her responsibilities, how she reacts to things changed. So I had to learn that, okay, I can't call her at this time of the night or 8 o'clock, nothing crazy, 8 o'clock to talk about this or that because she's very busy. So I
Hmm.
had to learn how to evolve when she evolved. So I think that's really important to really recognize where people are, where they're going, and to really, if you want to have that relationship, respect it. And not, just know that this is maybe you'll be doing the same thing at some point, learn from it. So that's how I kind of like had to really learn how to evolve in that relationship.
Okay. All right. So last question for you. So any additional piece of advice that you could go back and give yourself when you first started out?
Definitely, I would have been more intentional about building a network. I would have been far more proactive about reaching out to people and been smart about maintaining those relationships. Because it's easy to say, yeah, I'll put up time one and then you just don't do it because they're not going to come back, say it. Or I think the other thing was sometimes I really did let time lapse. I was like, oh no. they might forget. No, they usually do. You just say, hey, again, Happy New Year, or I hope you have a great 4th of July. Can we put time on the calendar? But not being afraid to engage in those relationships and re-engage if you need to. And then also knowing that you can evolve in that relationship. So sometimes you have that fear in your head about they're going to think this, think that. No, they won't. Well, a lot of times they won't. But just really put yourself out there. And network is highly imperative. You have to do it. Come up with a plan and stick to it.
Okay, so it sounds like I should be doing that from day one.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lene. This was very insightful, and I really appreciate you taking the time today. And I thank you out there for watching our interview today. And thanks again for joining us for another Phoenix 76 Tech Talk. Have a good day.
Have a good day. Thank you.